Hello, welcome everyone to the Lineage Legacy podcast. This is Francisco Aguilar, your host. I hope everyone is having a lovely, wonderful day. Today is a beautiful Sunday, July 6th, and today I have the honor and privilege of sitting down here with Andrew Beltrán. Cool guy. I have had the privilege of meeting Andy back maybe a year ago now, maybe over a year ago. We actually met at a networking event that his buddy, Alfred Reserva, hosted down in Bonita, and that was actually my first time ever down there. But shout out Alfred, shout out Reserva Construction. I actually attended that event with my buddy Adan Tinoco, so shout out Adan as well. Yeah, man, we actually connected another time at a NHCA event, which is a National Hispanic Construction Alliance. We were just chit chatting to different people in there. We had a little group, and we were just talking about the goals that we had. And I had brought up that I wanted to create a podcast, and kind of told them the idea that I had, and they definitely liked it. They connected, and I told them, "Hey, man, one day I'm gonna invite you to the podcast." And here we are now. A couple months later, here the podcast, and I'm excited for this episode because Andy's gonna share with us his family information. He has some really cool stories. Again, Andy, you told me earlier that you had some really cool stories about your great grandparents on your mother's side that was actually involved with some pretty historical events back in the day, and that's as far as you were able to get information of your family. So if you want to share a little bit about that, feel free, and I'll leave this over to you now. Take it off.
All right, we'll kick it off. Before, just thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I was very excited coming up here. A little nervous, but very excited, and it's an honor for me to be here. And I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, man. Again, this is
So
just a regular conversation
yeah,
between two
man.
friends.
But I'm excited, man, I'm thankful. So,
Yeah, of course.
anyways, I'll kick it off. I was talking to my mom, and she gave me a fun fact.
Mhm.
This is on my grandpa's side. My grandpa, his name is Luis Romero del Muro. So his parents, she told me his dad's name, which which is supposed to be my great grandfather, was Francisco Antonio Romero, and my great grandmother was Soledad del Muro.
Hmm.
So allegedly, they were coming up with Francisco Villa, during the Revolutionary War and all that stuff. And at some point, close to Guadalajara, they decided to separate from the convoy or whatever, desert the military. And they ended up in this small little town in Jalisco called El Sauce de los Marques.
Hmm.
And that's where these two, uh, husband and wife had my grandpa, Luis Romero.
And I want to ask how you've been to this part of Jalisco before, right?
I have, yes.
Describe to us a little bit about the geography, the location, where it lands, what's the setting of this place in Jalisco?
So from Guadalajara, which is like the main city there, or the main, the capital there of Jalisco, I want to say it's about 4 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever travel around the area, every little town was created because they had like a church or something. So every little town has a church. If they made it to that to be a town. So
Mm-hmm.
this little town, San de los Marques, is very small geographically. It's just has a little church, little gazebo there,
Mm-hmm.
and just that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
Not too many families there. It's definitely a town, and
What do
then
you?
surrounded by just fields of where people used to grow corn and stuff like that.
Okay, so it's pretty. Is it deserted? Is it pretty green? Is there a lot of water passing by? Like.
Yeah, it's definitely green,
Mm-hmm.
and there's definitely a river. I don't know the specific name, but there's a river that goes through that town, and that's kind of how those little towns got created. They needed that water source, so wherever there was a main stream of water, that's where these towns would kind of like start popping up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely a river, definitely green. The rains in the right after summer and stuff like that. So
Okay. So it sounds beautiful. I mean, I know Jalisco has a lot of history, a lot of rich Mexican history. I mean, You have tequila coming out from the state of Jalisco. You
Hmm.
have mariachi coming out. So there's definitely a lot of history, a lot of culture that comes out of that state, and it's a beautiful state. I haven't visited yet, but one day.
Yeah, they're not known for anything specific,
Hmm.
other than there's just a little branch of Guadalajara there,
Hmm.
Jalisco.
Nice.
But definitely a nice area. Definitely you go there and like many of those towns, everything's peaceful.
Yeah.
The days are nice, long, and people work whenever there's work, and when there's no work, they just kind of launch and chill.
Humble.
Yep, eat
Yeah.
some tuna, some nopales, and just kind of talk.
Yeah.
So
So your great grandparents landed in that area of Jalisco, and then they had your.
my grandpa Luis Romero
Mhm.
and other siblings that I did meet. I did meet a couple of them. The names kind of come and go, but I did meet some of the siblings.
Hmm. And then your grandpa. Do you have the names of your grandfather and your grandmother? I think you had the names there, right?
Yeah, so on my grandma's side, Angelita Mejia, her dad was Jose Guadalupe Mejia, and her mom was Diego Herrera.
Mm.
And the way they describe them, Jose Guadalupe was like a short, brown Mexican guy, and then Diego Herrera was like this tall, thick, like Russian looking lady with like blue eyes.
Mm.
And we do have family with like colored eyes and all that, so her genes probably did kind of jump.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was another fun fact
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
this big Russian lady was somehow paired up with this Jose Guadalupe Herrera, which there's a lot of shortness in our family and a lot of tallness, and definitely that shortness probably comes from this great grandpa. So
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of cool too.
That's pretty cool. So then, did they had your mother at that point, right? They had 8 children.
Yeah, so in that little town, El Sauce de los Marques, that's where my grandpa and my grandma meet. He was 17 and she was 14 when they met.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming they got married. I don't know how it happened back in the day, but they got together and they conceived my oldest uncle, which is Ruben Romero. But somehow during that time, my grandpa, he didn't know that my grandma was married, and during that time, he came to the border, it, looking for the U.S. to try to get a better life
Mhm.
because obviously at that in those towns there was not a lot of opportunities.
Mhm.
So at 17, my grandpa left that town towards TJ, and yes, eventually they had 8 kids.
Mhm. So he came to TJ, and for those listening, TJ is Tijuana, and that's a border city neighboring San Diego, California. And TJ is kind of where everyone went back in the day to make it big. If they couldn't get to the United States, where that was their first goal, then they would settle down in TJ. Or that's just a stepping stone to get into the United States. Obviously, everyone would travel back then in search for a better life. But it was also a big city, like I mentioned, of a melting pot of opportunities and culture where a lot of people ended up, finding their ultimate home, actually.
Yeah, and I'm this is around the 1940s,
Hmm.
so I think TJ was growing. It's growing every year, was multiplying, and like you said, it was a place to come right before you try to make it into US,
Hmm.
and obviously it was back in the day when it was a lot easier to come to the US.
Yeah.
So from the story I get is that my grandpa, he came looking for work, right? So he came to Riverside. He worked the fields in Riverside. He worked the fields in Bakersfield, and from what I've been told, that he got deported after working the fields, and he ended up in TJ. Right? They got deported and went straight to TJ. When he was in TJ, that's where he met a friend that got him into the taxi business. So he tried the field work. He tried all that. Said he said, you know what? That's hard work. That's literally what I was doing back in my rancho in Sauce de los Marques. Like that's not really the life I'm looking for.
Hmm.
So he got introduced to the taxi business, and through this friend Juan, and he became a taxi driver. and from there he worked the taxis for years until my grandma eventually came to TJ to meet up with him.
Yeah, and there's a pretty interesting story on how she came to TJ, right?
Yeah,
Share a little bit about how he was in TJ and she was in back home in Jalisco, and she ended up popping up to him in TJ.
yeah. So throughout this 4 years that my grandpa was working in TJ, he would send mail to my grandma. And back in the day, there was it was hard. There was no phones, obviously, and so you would send letters to your town, but you would have to use like like an address, which in those small towns, like usually the store there, the tiendita was like the main facility there, and everything would go through that place. So if you had to send a letter, you would send it to that place, and then from that place, the whoever was in charge of that tiendita, she would call the family or the neighbors, be like, "Hey, te una carta. You
Hmm.
got a letter here from whatever," and then they would go pick it up. So allegedly, my grandpa was sending his love letters with money
Hmm.
in it, right? Because he knew he had left a wife behind, and he would send letters with money. And this lady at the tienda, she would keep the money
That owned the store.
of the store.
Yeah.
So she would keep the money with the letter. So the communication was kind of off there
Mm.
because my grandma wouldn't get all the letters, and I'm assuming she would send letters, and I'm not sure if those would or were making it to my grandpa who was in TJ.
Mm.
So from what I learned from my family was that my grandpa sent a letter, and in that letter, it said like, "Hey, I heard that you might have moved on, that you probably don't want nothing to do with me again or whatnot. So if that's the case, I understand," or something along those lines.
Mhm.
And when my grandma read that letter, she was like, "No, this is not true. Like, I need to go. I need to go talk to him. I need to go with him." So she talked to her brother Daniel, and asked him like, "Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you take me to TJ so I could reunite with my husband?" At that point, my grandma already had my oldest uncle, which was Ruben Romero, who was 4 years old, and my grandpa, he didn't know he had a son because, like I said, he never came back to the ranch, and the letters were kind of getting lost here and there, so there was that communication wasn't there. So my grandma said, "Hey, brother, like, hook me up, take me to TJ." And back then, there's no paved road. There's still not a paved road there
Mm.
coming to the ranch, just like the main drags going to the outskirts of the towns. So my uncles, or my I guess my great uncle, or
Mhm.
my grandma's brother, hooked her up. They got a bunch of horses ready, took up with luggage, took the 4-year-old, and they took a horseback all the way to this nearby town, Colotlan, which is by car. It's probably like, I was like 2 hours away from Sauce de los Marques. Horse ride, I mean, you can only imagine
Over
back in
eight
those
hours.
days, probably more than a day, right?
Yeah.
So somewhere in between, they had to, bunker down with a 4-year-old and
Yeah.
some horses, and I mean, I can only imagine. It's
Yeah.
probably a good adventure.
Some real Western
Some
stuff.
real western, yeah. And so they make it to this town, Colotlan, where I guess in that town there was like buses that would get there, or trucks, something, right? So from there they jump into a truck or a bus, and they go to the main city, which is Guadalajara, Jalisco. From there they take a train all the way to TJ, which I'm assuming took probably a day or two. And once they go to TJ, using one of the letters that my grandpa had sent, they go and find where my grandpa lived
Through the address.
through the address on the
Right.
letters that she was receiving, right?
Mhm.
And from what I was told, that they got to TJ like during dark hours, so late at night. And so my grandma, her brother Daniel, and my 4-year-old, uncle Ruben get there, and my tío is holding my uncle's hand, and he tells my grandma, "Hey, hide behind a car," and because he had seen my grandpa coming to his apartment.
Mm.
And then I guess when he was walking to the apartment, he's holding his hands, and he recognized my
Great
gr-
uncle.
great uncle, And he's like, "Hey, compadre, like, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "Hey, look at you." It's like, "Who? That's a good looking kid. Whose kid is it?" It's like, "Well, who do you think he looks like?" And then that my grandpa was like, "Well, he kind of looks like Angelita," which is my grandma, Angela. She used to go by Angelita. I said, "Oh, who else do you think he looks like?" And then, from there, who knows exactly what conversation
Yeah,
happened.
yeah.
But eventually, my great uncle tells my grandma, "Hey, come over." And she pops out, and my grandpa hadn't seen her for 4 years, and you can only imagine, they saw each other, hugged.
Cried a bit.
He tells her, "Hey, this is your son. This is your son, Ruben." And from there, my grandma never went back to the
And this
ranch.
is and this is maybe the 1950s and 60s at this point.
Well, I don't know. They say he was born in 1923, so add 17 years to that.
Yeah.
That's 1940
Mhm.
plus 4 years, 1945 ish.
Yeah.
So yeah, just
1940,
before the 1950s.
yeah. And
Yep,
so he was that point
20.
23,
Yeah,
give or take.
yeah, 21, 22.
It's so crazy now that I like, well, not now, but it's so crazy how back then individuals would take the risk at such an early age at 16, 15, 17. they're
Yep,
they're leaving their they're leaving everything they know back at home, which is, I mean, in retrospect it's probably not much, but I mean that's where their family is, that's where they come from, but that shows how much of the risk that they're willing to take for a better life.
hmm
And he's out there, just grinding, hustling, and trying to provide a better family. So they at that point, is he still driving the taxis?
yeah. From what I know, like he was grinding, driving taxis. I got funny stories about that too.
Yeah.
He used to drive during those time. He used to drive the taxis amarillos. They're gone. I think they're gone now. But for years, whoever remembers, maybe as a little kid, as soon as you walked out of the border, there was some yellow taxis,
Hmm.
and these were you were short. These guys were like suited up, man, like dress pants, dress button shirt, hair, legit. The taxis spotless, little trees hanging from the mirror. Like it was some pride in being a yellow taxi driver.
Mm.
So my grandpa used to be a yellow taxi driver, and for years he did that. And one of the stories that they tell me is that I guess he was always hustling, right? So he had hooked up with like the bars around there, and or the mistresses and all that, and he would recruit like Marines and recruit all the people going to TJ,
Hmm.
and he would get a fee for every Marine that he would take to these like parlors and
Yeah.
this gentlemen's clubs and all that. So he was hustling and always doing that. So he did that from what I was told forever.
Hmm.
But during the first times, that's how he really made his money. That's how he learned kind of like the hustling, the business, and just chasing the money there that the border town, the opportunities that the border town gave you.
That's how he learned entrepreneurship, and that's how he learned how to find his niche, or how to provide a supply to a demand, right? Like,
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
that he kind of introduced into other aspects, other uh, entrepreneurial adventures that he went on to, right?
Correct. Yeah. From what I was told, after the yellow taxis, he changed and he was invited to drive other taxis that had a different route, and they were the white with blue taxis, and then after that he drove the red and black taxis, and these taxis, the color coding was divided on the routes that these taxis would take along TJ as TJ was growing.
Hmm.
And during that time, there was a big demand in the outskirts of TJ, which at that point was Otay Mesa,
Hmm.
which now is just like not even close to. Now TJ is so big, almost connected to Tecate, which is probably like 2 hours away
Hmm.
from TJ. But during that time, the demand was there to create another route, and by then he had kind of became part of the political structure of these other taxi union
Hmm.
syndicates that they were called back in the day, and he was able to create one of those routes to Otay Mesa, which was the white and brown taxis.
Hmm.
So, eventually he kind of climbed that side of the house where he started getting into like politics and joining like I said, these unions and becoming like a board member in this union to the point where he created his own sindicato.
Hmm.
So
And that was the Otay one.
yeah, that was the time. It was Cor, COR. That was the name of that syndicate that he created.
Hmm.
Um, and that's that route that it took.
Like you mentioned to me earlier, the whole taxi route back in the day was kind of bureaucratic. It was governed. It was structured. So there was a lot of. It was a hard barrier of entry, right? There was a lot of government overseeing,
Right. So every taxi had a plate. So like the taxi didn't really matter. What mattered was the plate affixed to that vehicle.
which is a license
A license.
to
Yeah.
drive.
Right. But those plates were owned by people. So if this syndicate, this line had like 100 plates, and those plates were initially given to people, and then it was an asset. So you could sell that plate to somebody else, and then that somebody else could buy it and start working. But you needed a plate to be able to operate. That's how it used to work in back in the day in TJ. So when he created that syndicate, he was given so many plates, and then he gave them to friends. Eventually they were sold, and that was kind of the way you would operate taxis in TJ.
Hmm.
So that was kind of a cool thing too, because and we'll talk about it later on. But eventually, when he passed, that's how my grandma was able to survive, because they still own like, I don't know, like 10, 12 plates.
Mm. And
So
so during this time that he was building his empire and the syndicate, um, he was also having more children with your grandma. I'm assuming,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So he had eventually 8 children with my grandma, and I think between my uncle Ruben and my second uncle, which is Luis Romero, he goes by Tito,
Hmm.
Luisito. It was 6 years. So grandma gets back to TJ, and then within 2 years, boom, they have their second child, Luis Romero. After my grandpa, he goes by Tito. So another fact, which is it's kind of cool, because I it's part of the way I grew up. My uncle Tito, he was born special needs.
Mm.
At that time, I don't think they even knew what it was, because which I've never seen anybody like him. And I've worked in that side of the house, when I was young. I've never seen a person like that. He grew to be tall, so he's probably like 6'1". On his prime, he's already older, but his mental state only developed to like 10 years old.
Mm.
So he never went through puberty when it comes to like his brain,
Hmm.
but he grew tall. He never facial hair
Mm.
never happened, nothing,
Mm.
just tall. So he grew high, but he never went through puberty. His voice squeaky like a 10-year-old. Everything he likes, like a kid. Wrestling, ooh, he loved it, man. So that's kind of it's weird. I've never seen anybody else. Like, I'm sure there is, but something happened. I don't know what it was,
Now
but
that you're saying it, I don't think I've ever actually seen anyone like that either. And usually, when a special needs person
yeah,
grows older, their voice also grows with their,
yeah.
they get facial hair. I've seen a
hmm
lot of special people with facial hair.
Down syndrome
Yeah.
is like Down syndrome. It's like specific characteristics is you could tell, that person has Down syndrome.
Hmm.
The way they look, their face, height, everything. But his condition, I've never seen it.
Mm.
Never seen it. It's almost like puberty never kicked in, but he kept growing.
Hmm.
He kept growing.
Yeah.
And anyway, so that's my second uncle, and I said it's kind of he's close to me, because once my grandma passed, years later, we ended up keeping him,
Hmm.
so he lived with me. So it was kind of like siblings.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so after my uncle, obviously they had 6 more. Um, he had 2 more girls. My tia Noemi, my tia Yolanda, and then from there my uncle Cesar, and then my uncle Carlos, my uncle Daniel, and then my mom,
Your mom was the youngest one.
Maria de Los Angeles. Yes.
What's the last name?
Romero Mejia.
Romero Mejia. So all of those kids are
Yeah.
Romero
So
Mejia.
Ruben Romero Mejia, Luis Romero Mejia,
Noemi.
Noemí Romero Mejia, Yolanda, César, Daniel, y Maria de Los Angeles.
Mm.
And in between there, he had two kids out of wedlock. The lady, I don't know her name. I just know there's a name lady out there, and then my tío Bapsi. So he actually, I don't know the specific details to the story, but they took him in. They took him in.
Your family.
My grandma took him in, knowing that it wasn't his kid, and allegedly he was taken in at a very young age, and he grew up with them.
Oh, that's
Um,
nice of her.
yeah, and allegedly he was homosexual back in the day, where obviously it wasn't accepted or this and that,
Hmm.
and I don't know, he just disappeared.
No, you guys didn't see him
No, he
much
just
after.
he just disappeared. One day he disappeared, and he never came back. And when my grandma fell ill, she died from cancer. When she fell ill, I guess she really wanted for him. She wanted to talk to him one last time,
Hmm.
and I think they paid a private investigator to look for him and everything, and they could not find
You
him.
couldn't find him.
No, and he obviously had some contacts there on the area. He was already older when he took off. I want to say in his late 20s or something like that, or maybe mid 20s or something. He was a pharmacist, and he had some contacts there, some friends, and they said, "Oh, there were some rumors out there that he might have gotten HIV and he took off and disappeared. Maybe shame.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's a lot to share, right? But that's kind of like the stories that I
Yeah,
heard growing up.
and he was also like younger than your mom.
He was, I think it was like my uncle Daniel,
Hmm.
and then my tío Babsi, and then my mom.
Mm.
So those three grew up very close, going to
Okay.
church, and you know, just being part of the family. I remember him as a
Yeah.
kid. I remember him very tall, skinny guy with a nice fat mustache,
Yeah.
glasses.
Fashionable.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, definitely.
So then your grandmother had those 8 kids, um and during this time that your grandfather was building the syndicate, was building his empire. Um when did um when did he move on from, because you told me he moved on from a few things of that taxi business.
Hmm.
He did a few other things as well.
So he did a bunch of things, right? Like from what I learned through growing up, that he was not afraid of like taking risks. He was always trying new things. He
Hmm.
was he was entrepreneur, like what a real entrepreneur is, and he was always hustling and never afraid of taking risks. So during that time when he got into like the syndicate and the politics and this and that, I guess he became he started working for like the city. So he was in charge of like parks and like communities in Pancho Villa,
Hmm.
Delegación Pancho Villa, which is it's like saying like
A city hall.
it's like a city.
Hmm.
It's like San Escondido, San Marcos, and Vista, right?
Okay.
So he was in charge of a city when it came to parks and this and that. So that delegación, I guess in Mexico, the a city is divided into delegaciones.
Hmm.
So like Escondido, what is it part of? What county?
North County.
North County?
Yeah.
But like San Diego is San Diego County.
Right.
So Escondido, what is it?
I mean, we're known as a city of Escondido.
Is there little cities in Escondido?
No.
Like in San Diego, it's San Diego County, right?
Yeah.
But you have Chula Vista, San
Right.
Isidro, Carlsbad.
Yeah.
Like you know what
So
I'm saying?
that's the funny thing,
Okay.
and I don't want to get too much out of your story,
Uh
but
huh.
once I think passing the 56
Yeah.
or passing the 8,
Uh huh.
everything becomes its own city. As far as I know,
Okay.
because down in San Diego, you can call San Diego like Mission Hills, Mission
Right.
Valley. You have all those, but they belong to the city of San Diego. Up here, you have Escondido, you
Okay.
have Valley Center, and that's their own
So
section.
okay, so I guess the correct term would be county,
Hmm.
right? San Diego County, you have LA County, right?
Right. Yeah.
So let's just say Tijuana, Baja California was a county.
Hmm.
And in that county, you had like mini little cities.
Hmm.
And those mini cities were called like delegaciones.
Okay.
And I might not be correct about this, but that's how I understand it,
But he
right?
was in charge
So he
of,
was in charge of this delegación Pancho Villa, and he was in charge of like the parks and the community, paving roads.
and I want to state that that's pretty interesting that he was in charge of the Pancho Villa with his dad
Oh
named
shit.
Francisco, and then his dad was also riding along with Pancho Villa back in the 20s.
Yeah. I never thought about that.
Yeah, it just kind of
Yeah.
clicked right now.
So yeah, anyway, so and you gotta remember too, right? This is probably like the '60s now, right, or late '50s. Like TJ is still growing,
Hmm.
so he was able to kind of jump in that career path, I guess, at this point, while this is growing. So my point with this was that he was kind of learning the ropes about politics and this and that, right? So during that time, he became a ejidatario of Pancho Villa, and what that meant is that because he was part of that place, that city, they were giving lots away.
Hmm.
So he was able to get some lots for free. And during that time, family was coming in from the south, and he was helping other family members like, hey, like come here, and if you're part of this ejido, the government's going to give you some hectareas, some acreage.
Hmm.
So yeah, he was moving, he was hustling, he was learning new ways to maybe get some land, maybe get some real estate, and get some his next hustle.
And he was also helping a lot of his family and a lot of your grandmother's family, bringing people down from Jalisco.
Right, right,
Yeah, and
and
giving them jobs and.
right, and giving them jobs, giving them opportunities, and I guess he had like a little blueprint from what I was told. Um, he always had the taxis, right? So imagine you running 15 taxis, right? And some family member says, "Hey, man, I want to leave the rancho where you're probably on horseback in the 50s, right?" So he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, come over here. Come, I'm gonna give you a home. I'm gonna teach you how to drive, right?
Hmm.
Because you don't know how to drive.
Right.
And guess what? And I'm gonna give you a taxi, so you could work and
You
I
make a
don't know,
living.
we'll go 50-50. How about that?"
Yeah.
So he had an incentive to like invite people from the south and hooking them up,
Yeah.
and then but eventually, at the end of the day, he was still helping the people.
Yeah.
And I went to a family reunion when I ran into like older, uncles and all that, and man, everybody spoke very highly of him. I never got to meet him, but everybody spoke very highly of him. So at the end of the day, I think he did it with a good heart.
Hmm.
Like, I think that was kind of his goal was, I'll help you and we'll help each other.
Right.
But he, when he going back to the whole, getting some of the land that the government was giving out, he got into the pig and chicken business.
Mm.
So I guess he had up to like 200 pigs and chickens. So he had a connect, in the U.S. where he would grow like this nice, pigs, and then he would sell them. But I guess he didn't really like that. He didn't like it, and he just kind of let that go.
Hmm.
But at least he kept the land.
Yeah.
And then throughout the years, the land became, put a house in there, and then just I guess he was in the real estate business too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he started acquiring more after that, or started selling it to people and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
So I don't know if it was a goal he had, but going back to like the uncles and the aunts that I had, like while he was alive, he gave them a lot with a
Mm.
house. So he eventually had like 100 acres from what I know, but during that time, like he gave a lot and a house to each of my uncles while he was alive.
And you also mentioned that he also helped out a lot of your uncles and family go to school.
Right.
That was a big priority of of his was to set you off to school.
Yeah. And yeah, that's something that's it's very interesting to me because he did not go to school, obviously, right? He came straight from the ranch, like ranch life, small pueblito. It wasn't even a city. It wasn't even.
The
It was
village.
a ranch, right?
Right.
From a ranch, you graduate to a pueblo, and from a pueblo, you graduate to a city, right? Like he was down here as a
Mhm.
ranch. So I find it very interesting that he understood that during those times, right? I think things might have changed a little now, but during that time, like education was your way out of poverty,
Mhm.
and I think he understood that from very young, coming to the city. So he made an effort to make sure that every uncle and every child he had an education. So during that time, just to go to high school, you had to pay for high school. And from what I was told, it was that my oldest uncle Ruben, he went to a high school. It was a preparatoria, but it was where you had to like live there. It was kind of probably like military school kind of deal. And he paid for him to go to that preparatory academy, and then from there, he went to Mexico City where he studied to be a lawyer. And I can only imagine, like, imagine how much he had to pay back in the day, right? As a taxi driver for a kid to go to a big city, um, to become a lawyer,
Yeah.
and and the fact that he understood the importance of, hey, education is going to be our way out of all the hustle that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And just kind of to go down the line, my tio Ruben became a lawyer. My uncle Luis Tito,
Hmm.
obviously we talked about it. He was special needs, so
Right.
he didn't. After I think elementary, they figured out that something's wrong,
Yeah.
so he didn't go to school. And then my aunts, during that time, the woman was a secretary and this and that, so they both became secretaries. And then my uncle Cesar, he became a doctor. He's a very respected doctor, Cesar Romero. Like if you Google him, he'll pop up right
Hmm.
there in Tijuana. And then my uncle Carlos, he became a cop, a federal. He was kind of like that black sheep of the family, so
Yeah.
it didn't work out for him. But
He didn't like school, but he
he was a troublemaker
he
for
liked being on
sure.
the streets.
He was a troublemaker for sure. But one of my favorite uncles actually. But yeah, he was that that funny, cool uncle that everybody wants to have, but he did get in trouble a lot.
Hmm.
And then from there, my tío Daniel, another lawyer, licenciado, Daniel Romero Mejia. And then my mom, she became a teacher.
Hmm.
She's already. But my point is that every single kid was given that opportunity to go to school, and now that I think about it, that was like his main hustle was for his family.
Hmm.
You really think about it,
That was his ultimate goal.
Yeah,
Dang.
that was ultimate goal. Yeah, and yeah, he just hustled left and right, taxis, real estate. He even had a dealer at one point. He was always a visionary,
Hmm.
and
Like a car dealership.
yeah.
Hmm.
So again, right? He was always kind of looking out. He was from what how my mom explains it, that he was a visionary and he was very observant. He was always paying attention what was going on in the room and where the opportunities were at. So during that time of the land acquisition, he ended up with a lot in the middle of the city there, Plaza Rio, around that area. And he was in the taxi business, so he had to connect with cars. So I guess all the cop cars that in the U.S. that after I don't know, let's just call it 5 years, they get new models.
Hmm.
All those cars go to like an auction. So he ended up with a connect of how to buy those cop cars. So he would buy all those cop cars, bring them to the lot, and sell them. Some would come become taxi, some would be sold to other people, and then he ended up with the taxis that we're too young, but I actually did jump on one of them. They used to have a door in the back,
Hmm.
so it was kind of like a hatchback SUV, and the back door opened up. It swung open, and there was a seat in the back, so you could see the driver, the passenger. You had a middle row, and then you had a back row that would look towards the back window.
Huh.
So those were called guayinas.
I remember trucks like that, like pickup trucks.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is like an SUV, like a wagon.
Mm.
I think they were called wagons. I mean that's the term.
I've heard of Wainas, the term.
Okay,
My dad calls truck Wainas just out
okay,
of,
yeah. So that was your like your taxi. So it
Mhm.
had a door in the back. That's where you fit all the extra people. They also were used for ambulances. So that's where you put the people, and then eventually even like funeral houses and all that. But my point was that he started acquiring those vehicles too, and then at one point he sold them to this person that he wanted to use them for ambulances, and he was always looking out. He always knew like what was going to be the next need.
He kept his eye
He
open.
kept his eye open.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he kept his eye open, man, all the time. And it's just throughout the years he was able to expand his footprint. He had all these little investment cells that he had going on, and like I said, put every kid through school. I don't think I could do it now, man. Like
Yeah.
putting 8 kids through school, like man,
Yeah.
it had to be hard. And most importantly, not knowing, man, not knowing. Imagine like somebody that came from from the ranch, not knowing what's better for you.
Right.
He must have been a very smart guy, man.
Yeah.
Somebody that knew, that paid attention to the important stuff, and that knew what was gonna get them a better life. You know,
So yeah.
mindset. Yep.
Damn. So he was a very, yeah, he was a real entrepreneur. Like just early hustling, and I think he might have gone like he just saw one thing working, and then he's like, oh, let me keep on going. Saw that working, and just kind of created a snowball effect. Um, so during this time, your grandmother, his wife,
Mm-hmm.
was she a full time stay at home mom?
The whole
Yeah,
time. Yep.
raising up the
Yep.
kids, making sure that they were fed, that
Yep.
he was fed.
Yep.
Um,
And
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 what?
and that, not to interrupt you, but that was the rule, right? Back in
Right,
the day, the mom stayed at home, and the male went out there and
and
worked.
hustled.
Yep.
And so, what were the last kind of years of his life? Like, what was he doing? Did he leave off the taxi business? Did he leave off the dealership stuff? What were his last kind of years?
So he never left the taxi business because, as I explained earlier, taxis were an asset.
Hmm.
It was a
He
plate.
knew that.
No matter what you slept, you were making money because that plate was rented out to people. So he never left the taxi business because, let's just call it 15 plates.
Hmm.
15 plates were giving him money
Yeah.
no matter what. It was like renting a house.
Right.
So he never left the taxi business. He was always part of that, and he was the last position he had. He was a delegado, subdelegado de la Pancho Villa,
Hmm.
and he was doing those parks and this and that. So he was like I guess he was like I don't know what a delegado is, but it's probably probably a couple tiers under a mayor.
Hmm.
You know?
Some type of it's translated to delegation, but some type of like commissioner of some sort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the guy that's in charge of the city and making sure that parks were nice and green
Yeah.
and roads were getting paved and stuff like that. So he had like an office job. Um, so that's what he was doing.
Those are the last days of his.
Yeah, I have another fact that
Mhm.
it's kind of well, it's important because it's part of what the point of this podcast is, right?
Yeah.
To kind of leave your legacy or your family's legacy on the table, right? So when he started his syndicates for the taxis, the whole point of the syndicate was it was like creating a union, right? Like the union, the workers, and all that stuff, right? So he saw a need for a union for all the ladies selling flowers. So you had all these like indigenous ladies from Oaxaca and stuff like that. They would come to the border, and they would sell flowers. Did, did you go to the border when you was young?
Yeah, and I still go every once in a while. Yeah.
Okay, you
Hmm.
don't see them a lot. I just started seeing them recently, but it was a thing. You would see all these indigenous people with like the babies in the back,
Hmm.
like selling stuff like in the border, right?
Yeah.
Like now that I think, I was kind of cool, like seeing that side of, not cool, but it was like that was it's part of Mexican culture,
Yeah.
like this indigenous people, right? But they also saw the opportunity in the border.
They went from rural life to
Yep.
modern living.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. So back then you had that where these ladies were selling flowers, right? In the border, near the border, El Centro and all that. And my grandpa, he started talking to them. He said like, "Hey ladies, like you guys need a union." Why? Because they were getting hustled by the cops.
Mm-hmm.
Like, "Hey, you can't be selling here, you can't be doing that," or "Hey, give me some money," whatever, right?
Hmm.
So he saw that need. He was like, "Hey, you guys need a union so you could sell legally. You can still sell your flowers, but legally. And if something happens, then guess what? We'll protect you." So he even created like a little union for these flower selling, ladies.
Really?
Yep. And then I was told that he created another union for the big water trucks, because as I mentioned, TJ was growing,
Hmm.
so there wasn't waters in some of the outskirt communities because the water lines weren't there yet. So you had all these like water trucks delivering water to the communities, and they were also getting hustled, right? Just like any time there's some need for some supply need, right?
Yeah.
People try to hustle, but they don't necessarily get the right permits or whatnot. So during that time, he created another syndicate for that. So it was just, I mean, like I said, he was always hustling, always moving. And that was kind of cool, you know. So that was what he was doing towards the end of his life.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
was always helping someone out in one way or another. He was making sure that they had a right of way, a right of passage to keep on operating in one way or another.
right.
Um, and so ultimately, at after a long, good lived life and successful life, um, what ultimately, how did he pass?
So I guess he was around 60 years old, right? He was at a car wash. He was reading the newspaper. He took his car to get a wash, and he got a heart attack.
Mm,
Um, I don't know if there's any indicators for that or anything, but he got a heart attack. You know, back in the day, there's no cell phones or this and that. So from what I was told is that they threw him in the back of the car. I think it was an Impala or something. They threw him in the back of the car. They drove to his house, which was like 2 blocks away. They grabbed my grandma, and from what I was told, they were gonna do a road trip. They were going somewhere. So he said, hey, you know, let me go get a quick
car
car
wash.
wash while you get all the maletas ready, and I'll pick you up right now. So they come to the house, they're honking, and my grandma comes out running, thinking like, oh shit, it's time to go. And no, it was like, hey, like, you know, something's wrong with your husband. You know, what do we do? It's like, well, what do you mean? What do we do? Let's take him to the hospital. So, anyways, it took a long time where they weren't able to do anything to help him out. So he passed away, heart attack at 60.
60, that's
Yeah,
young.
that's young.
Yeah.
That's young. He did smoke, you know, back in the 50s, 60s. Smoking was like,
Especially taxi drivers too,
yeah,
right?
oh yeah, absolutely. Actors, everything.
Hmm.
It was a cool thing to do.
Hmm.
I don't know if it had anything to do with it. He wasn't he wasn't overweight or anything like that. At least from the picture that I've seen, maybe stress.
Hmm.
You know, I guess he was running all these hustles
Maybe.
and all these businesses and trying to put 8 kids through life. Maybe a bit of stress.
So
I
then
don't know.
your grandmother was 63-ish. 60.
I wanna.
She was older than him, right?
Yeah. No, she was younger.
Oh, she was younger.
She was 3 years younger. So maybe in her late 50s.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
'Cause he was
it's young.
17, she was 14.
Oh, right.
So maybe she was like late 50s, mid 50s.
So that's young.
Yeah,
Dang.
yeah, that's young.
So the
My mom was. I think that's how we started. Is my mom was 18. So you know, imagine being the baby, a girl,
oh, when
18
she
years
passed,
old.
when he
Yeah,
passed, yes.
and obviously that was towards the end of his career,
Hmm.
or at the time where, you know, he was probably a little more well off than obviously when he started with the first couple kids. So she probably got hit hard when
Yeah.
she was the youngest,
And
being a
she
girl.
probably also didn't get to spend as much quality time with him either because he was running businesses. He was, you know,
Yeah,
she was the youngest one, or who knows? Maybe a lot of people are the youngest children, always most likely the most pampered ones
right.
too.
From what I know, she was very pampered.
Okay.
She was definitely very pampered. Um, it's funny. Her nickname is Madre,
Hmm.
and uh, you know, I forget exactly the story where that nickname came from, but she was like, you know, it was something along the lines where era la madrecita, like whatever she said went,
Oh
you know.
yeah.
But I don't know the real reason the real why her name is or her nickname
Yeah.
was Madre, um, but she was very close to him, from what I know.
Oh, okay.
She was very close to him.
And so it hit her hard.
Oh yeah, I can
Yeah.
only imagine. 18 years old, you lose your dad when you're the baby girl.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it hit her hard. But on the other side, you know, my grandma she was set. You know everything he did. She
Left her
was
the taxi
yeah
business
yeah.
and
She had a couple lots that were getting rented at the time. That were used for like, I think one was like where they fix cars, like a body shop,
hmm.
stuff like that. So they had a couple lots where they rented them out, and then she had the taxis. That's how she kind of, you know, made her money.
Yeah.
So, and then the house, you know, paid off house, whatever. So
And so then at this point, obviously your grandpa passes away, life goes on. Your mom is growing up older. Um, what happens first? Obviously, I'm assuming that your mother meets your father at one point or another during her young age.
Yeah. From what I was told, she was, I guess she was out partying with a friend, a girlfriend, and that girlfriend had a boyfriend, which is my uncle,
Hmm.
my dad's brother, and so they were all partying at a club, and for whatever reason, my dad was there, and then, oh yeah, this is my brother Andres, and I guess that night, he needed a ride, and my mom, being 18 and coming from a wealthy, family at that time, had
Hmm.
a car,
Hmm.
you know, and she was able to offer him a ride, and that's how they ended up meeting each other for the very first time.
Hmm.
And then um, it's a fun fact too. I guess my dad grew up rough. He had a pretty rough upbringing. Mom, different brothers from different dads and this and that. He lived in a bad neighborhood in TJ, and allegedly he was like a cholo back in the day or
Yeah.
whatnot. And when he got a ride from my mom, this is what my mom told me, so I don't know how legit this story is, but in his head, I never asked my dad. That's what I'm saying. But in his head, he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna steal her money or whatever."
Yeah, she was a rich looking girl.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She was, and she was a teacher, I think, at the time already. Like at 18, she was a teacher already. So my dad was like, "Oh, I'm gonna on the way home, I'm gonna rob her." And but I guess he was talking to her, and then he was like, "Ah, she's kind of seems kind of like a cool girl, so just drop me off here." And he
And this
never,
is what your mom is telling you, or
yeah, this
yeah,
is what my mom told me. Yeah, so he never like did anything,
yeah.
and then afterwards, I guess they were going out again through her girlfriend that was going out with my uncle, and then they met again with my dad, and then I think from there they kind of became boyfriend and girlfriend, and eventually, got married like really, really quick,
Hmm.
like too quick,
Hmm.
where my mom didn't know much about him and whatnot, but you know, she was young.
Yeah.
Dad passed away. I don't know. Maybe she had some
Some
daddy issues or something.
yeah. And so during this time, uh, they started having children at a young age as well.
Who?
Your mom
My mom.
and your dad.
Yeah. So they get married, and I think after they get married, I don't know if it was a couple years or whatnot. They had their first kid, my sister, Patsy, and then she was born in February 1988, and then same year in December, they had me.
Mm,
So yeah, they I think they waited just a little bit, and then right off the bat they had me.
they were going at
They were going at it,
it.
definitely. I mean, two kids in 1 year, that's pretty crazy.
it's
So
actually it's actually pretty common in Mexican culture,
I mean, why wait, right?
right? And I think
There's no Netflix back then.
yeah, no, they're just go out to the stars and that's
Yeah,
it.
just freaking go.
So it's your sister Patsy. How old is she? How many years older is she than you?
So 10 months.
10 months.
So
Oh, right, 10
same
months.
year,
Yeah,
she's February, and I'm December. So she's 37 right now.
and it's just the two of you.
I have a younger brother, so
Okay,
Joshua. He's like 4 years later
it's just the three,
after me. Yeah, it's just three.
the three, and then
So
all both from your mom and dad.
yeah, both from
Okay,
mom and dad. Yeah. So
gotcha.
that's a whole another story. But yeah, mom, dad came, was working the U.S. Again trying to, again, take another step further.
Hmm.
So he was working the U.S., and that's where my mom and my dad had us all in L.A. because we had an aunt that lived there, so that
Hmm.
was kind of like the place to go. And then eventually, when my sister um, hit kindergarten, that's when we kind of like settled in. Cause
Down here.
yeah, because I guess the first years of marriage were kind of rough for my parents, but then my little brother kind of got them back together. So when my mom was pregnant with my little brother, I think that's when my dad kind of like tried to settle down a little. And then during that time, my sister had to go into kindergarten, so we kind of needed like that stability.
Yeah.
So we ended up living in San Isidro, and that's where we settled down, and that's when my sister started going to school, and then obviously eventually me. and then my little brother.
And your mom probably also wanted to be closer to her family right across the border in TJ, I'm
Yeah,
assuming. To her mom.
yeah. I'm assuming that's correct because she was a teacher,
Mhm.
so she always worked as a teacher.
Was she a teacher over here in the States as
No, in
well?
TJ.
Oh, in
So
TJ.
she was doing it backwards.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, instead, some people live in Mexico and come work in the
Yeah.
U.S. My mom was actually living in the U.S. to give us an opportunity and driving south every day to work as a teacher because in TJ they had these things called plaza, which is kind of like you get hired and then you're able to retire.
Mhm.
So with that plaza gives you that right. So if you lose that plaza, then you lose retirement.
Yeah.
So she had like an obligation to keep working. That way she could retire and then obviously get paid
Like a
after.
401k or something like that.
No, like a pension.
Oh, like a pension, yeah.
Yeah. So the plaza gave you the pension.
Mm.
Yeah. So she had a plaza and she had a couple plazas too. She worked 2 shifts, which in TJ you had like the morning shift and the afternoon shift for school. I think the morning shift was like I don't know, something like 8 to 12, and then
So you remember vividly your mom working,
absolutely,
going to
yeah.
work to TJ every morning.
Right, because when we were on break, we had who nobody was gonna take care of us, so my mom would take us to school.
With
So
her?
yeah, with her. So like if I during summer break,
Mhm.
she would take us to school and then she would throw us in a room. Like if we were in third grade, she would tell her third grade, coworker, hey, my son's with you for the next 2-3 weeks or whatever, how long the break was. So I was there in TJ, just going to school with the TJ,
So you never had
kids.
you never had a summer break. You were always in school at one point.
Well, I was a bit of a troublemaker, so I had a break. I was just, in TJ having
Yeah.
fun with the kids and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I never had a
You wouldn't
break.
you wouldn't get graded out there.
No, because I was there just for fun. Like, it's
Yeah.
not like I had to pass anything. I was just
Right.
going there. But it was good, I guess, because my Spanish is pretty good.
Yeah.
I actually have a little accent, and I shouldn't. Yeah,
Everyone has a little
yeah.
accent.
That's probably because I grew up on the border. But the good thing is that I do. My Spanish is pretty good.
Yeah.
I could read and write. So
So
thank you to my mom for that.
so then at this point, what is your dad doing for work? And I don't know if I don't remind me your dad's name.
Andres.
Andres.
Yeah.
Andres, and then Maria
De Los
de Los
Angeles.
Angeles.
Yeah, which long name. So Andres, my dad. Man, my dad, I guess. Right now, I don't know. Right now, he's just like selling stuff, like a segunda in TJ.
Hmm.
So like he buys stuff in the U.S., takes them to TJ and sells them there.
A lot of people
Used.
do that.
Yeah. What
Hmm.
is that called here? What would that be the equivalent of?
Mm,
They used to
I
have
don't.
like Goodwill.
I don't know what the term is. Like, I mean, it's a thrift, but I don't know what
Yeah.
the actual term
Uh-huh.
is. You're just reselling.
Yeah, I mean, and I
Yeah.
think that he uses like Facebook Marketplace to
Okay.
like kind of, and then he'll go to the sobre ruedas, which is kind of like a swap meet.
That's what he's doing right now.
That's what he does right now.
Back when you were growing up, what was he?
So
What was
he
he
was
doing?
jumping here and there. I guess when we were in LA, I have no idea what he was doing. Too young to remember. And then when we settled down in San Isidro, he was working at a machine shop,
Hmm.
Ecology. It was a name. It's probably not there anymore. Somewhere in National City, and it was just like just machine shop.
Hmm.
There were machines and this and that. So he was doing that. I remember him working at a dealer, like washing vehicles and doing the detailing stuff. And then after that, I remember him somehow jumping into this company called Granny Goose, which is it's like I think it was in the East Coast, but it try to make it in San Diego. I don't think it worked.
Hmm.
It's kind of like your Frito Lay,
Oh,
but
okay.
it was like an East Coast thing. So chips, tortillas, stuff like that. He would just stuff like stores,
Yeah.
and then from there, um, he went into those companies that kind of throw you out, like
Like a
temp
yeah.
agencies.
Yeah. Agencies.
Yeah, and then that's kind of when he settled down. I think that's kind of when we were doing pretty good. It was the company used to be called Manpower. I don't even know if it's in business anymore. And
Those temp agencies, or the workers make good money actually.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because they get good deals. So he
Yeah.
was working like towards the end. Me in the end when I eventually my parents split up. So towards the end, he was working as a driver for Qualcomm.
Mm.
Qualcomm, like
The tech
it's
company.
yeah,
Hmm.
and then Nokia
Hmm.
too. So back in before, when cell phones were coming a thing, he would drive around these engineers, and they would take all their equipment, and then if a call dropped, boom, they would log it in, and they would just drive all over San Diego County. Every time a call would draw, they would drop a pin, drop a pin, drop a pin, drop a pin, and then eventually they would create this, like, cord, so they could put like an antenna.
So, were they always calling, or was there
Yeah,
always a? They were like a line was always
yeah.
continuously
He
running.
he showed me like the setup one time, and it was like literally like a van, and then the back seat was like 20 phones, and then they would just drive around, engineers drive around like the mountains,
Hmm.
Escondido, San Marcos, Vista, everywhere,
Hmm.
and then all these calls getting dropped would get recorded, and
Oh
then
wow!
they would eventually, kind of like plot it, and then that's how they would, build antennas.
They probably don't do that anymore, huh?
Oh, I mean, there's so much technology now, and then you got satellites and all this
Yeah,
crap. But have you ever seen those antennas? They're like palm trees
yeah,
or trees.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's how. I mean, that's what he was doing.
So they would like where those antennas are placed is where
Yeah,
the calls would drop.
right. So
Oh
now
wow.
so those antennas are repeaters, right?
Hmm.
So as you're driving around, you're connecting to these antennas. So so when you make a call, your call goes to this antenna, and then from the antenna to another antenna,
To
or
the bigger
even
one,
a
a
satellite.
bigger service.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So I'm not very techy on that side, but that's how repeaters work.
Yeah.
So he was, in the beginning where phones were, I remember there at times like a Nokia had or Motorola had a nice like flip phone
Hmm.
with like just a little screen, digital screen that
Yeah.
just said on
Yeah.
and off,
Yeah.
and that was it. Like that's how, you know uh that's back in the day. So
I remember,
anyway,
I remember,
that's what
I
he was
remember
doing.
those phones too. I remember my dad having a Nokia, like the actual, like the big rock looking
Hmm.
ones, and then
Play a little
eventually,
snake game.
yeah,
You
and then
remember that
eventually
snake?
going up to like the flip
Yeah,
phones and all that. I mean, I had a flip phone when like that was my sister and I had shared a flip phone
yeah,
from when we were younger.
yeah.
So yeah, I remember those things too. So then your father and your mother split up. Your dad ended up going back to TJ, and that's
Yeah,
where he lives now, doing a few reselling stuff.
yeah.
Your mom
My mom kept, working, and then retired.
in
Eventually
TJ.
retired, yeah.
Okay,
And then once she retired, um, we always kept that we live in San Isidro. We live close to the border, and then eventually we jumped into these apartment complex called Villanueva. They're still there, Section 8 apartments,
hmm,
which is I'm so grateful because it gave us a good opportunity to kind of live, life as the struggles were going on. And my sister, she still lives there, so she's still there. And then my mom, they were kind of, living there, until eventually she just decided, hey, now I'm gonna live in TJ. She
hmm,
found, she eventually found this other guy, great guy, Javi, and they live in TJ. So she did her 30 years, I don't know what, as a teacher. She got her pension, and then, retired.
nice. So
And
she's
then,
just living comfortably in
yeah,
TJ now.
and then again, thanks to my grandpa, she ended up, when my grandma passed away, she ended up with the house.
Nice.
So she lives there at the house. And then with her pension, it's more than enough for her to live comfortably. So
Is that the house where when your grandfather and your mother and grandmother both raised everyone?
right, which is kind of, I asked my mom that. I was like, hey, did they ever want to like buy another house? Because they always live in the same house,
Hmm.
and it's a nice house, no, nothing like crazy,
But
like.
they could afford more. I'm assuming.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, now that I look back, I was like, maybe he could have, I don't know, maybe get more bougie or here and there,
Hmm.
but he never did, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess he was at whatever, he was humble in some ways.
Yeah, or he just always had a vision. I mean, he passed early on too, so he probably didn't
Yeah,
think of it like
maybe he used his money to like keep investing,
investing. Yeah.
investing, obviously paying for school and this and that, and then just investing. So
So, during this time that I mean, your mom probably retired not too long ago either, right?
she, I think she's not. It's been a while now because, like
Okay.
I said, she started very young.
Yeah.
Like being a teacher. I think she was 18. She was already a teacher. So let's just call it 45. That's when she retired, something like
Okay.
that. So she was pretty young.
Yeah. So then she's been retired for a while. And you were born and raised in the San Isidro area.
Right.
And tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
So I grew up in San Isidro. I grew up in this Section 8 apartments called Villanueva, which is I mean, I had a great childhood. So I guess I'm speaking from an adult.
Hmm.
But as a child, I loved it, man.
Hmm.
But it's a Section 8, apartment complex. A lot of single moms, a lot of drugs, a lot of cholos and all that stuff, right? That happens at a low income community.
Hmm.
As a kid, I didn't see it much as a harm, but that's where I grew up. And I think my mom always, like, she knew the threat was there,
Hmm.
so she always like looked for better opportunities for us. So my homeschool elementary was Bayer Elementary. It's not there; they took it down. It's just a dirt lot right now. And I went there for my from kinder to fourth grade. At fourth grade, she looked for a transfer. We used to go to church, every Sunday, every Wednesday, and a lady from church. She lived just on the outskirts of San Isidro, and she let us borrow her address so we could go to that homeschool there,
Hmm.
which was Los Altos Elementary. It was just it was compared to San Isidro, it was a little better, right?
And this is closer to what, like,
This is literally it's San Diego, but it's just outside of San Isidro.
is it
So
closer to like Lakeside or
no,
what's around there?
it's literally in between 805 and the 5 in
Okay.
in south of Chula Vista.
Hmm.
So it's south of Chula Vista, north of San Isidro.
Okay.
So it's
Coming
literally,
up north.
yeah.
Yep.
So that the nearest area is Del Sol.
Hmm.
Because it's kind of weird the way San Diego County is, because it's divided in the county and little cities, and then little cities in between.
Yeah.
So Del Sol is the nearest hard location there. So just a little better. All it is, it's all that surrounding our homes.
Hmm.
So it's low blue collar people that are able to buy a home. So a lot better than growing up in
Yeah.
Section 8 apartments, right? So I go there, I graduate, I go to middle school, and then after middle school, then okay, I either go to Montgomery. I went to Montgomery Middle School. So after middle school, I either go to Montgomery High, which is right there, that neighboring high school, or I go to my home school, which was gonna be San Isidro High
Down there.
down there,
Hmm.
which it was the first year they opened it. So
Okay.
brand spanking new
So
school.
people think like, oh, it might be good,
Yeah,
or it's
yeah,
gonna be good.
it's brand spanking new, and they actually they only had ninth graders, and every year they would add. So
Yeah.
second year 9 and 10, third year 9, 10, 11.
Is this the school right in front of Plaza de Americas?
No,
Okay. I don't know where
it
it's at then.
that's an elementary school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's called Willow. No, this is along the 905. There's a DMV down there, so
Mhm.
it's really close to the DMV. So it's in the middle of nowhere. Now there's a lot of homes and commercial buildings that popped up, but it's on the 905, close to the Brownfield Airport. So
Mhm.
that should be a landmark
Yeah.
there. So anyway, so I go there 2 weeks, and my mom, she's already working something, behind the curtain with an aunt that lived in East Lake. So she got a transfer from me, and then she took me out of that school.
So you ended up going to San Isidro High School.
I went to San Diego High School 2 weeks. Then I transferred to East Lake High, which is it was in the nice area. And then I didn't, I wasn't a very good student. So my last year, they kicked me out, and I
Mhm.
had to graduate. I had to end my senior school year at San Isidro.
Yeah.
So I actually graduated from San Isidro. I was first class graduate. So 2006, we were the very first class that graduated from that high school.
Oh, dang.
So I was able to graduate from that high school. However, I didn't spend my time there, but I still knew the kids,
Yeah.
growing up and this and that.
Home was calling.
Yeah, home was calling. Yeah. During high school, I used to work 35 hours a week. So, I was working at Little Caesars, right after high school. I would go there, I would work, I would close it up. and then I would go home. Since it was in the outskirts, everybody got bused to that school. There was no buses that went there, so we
Mm,
started later in San Isidro. Everybody had free lunch. Everybody had a bus drive there, which was kind of cool because it was San Isidro low income,
yeah.
and then the fact that they there was no bus line that went there, they had to shuttle everybody there. So it was
Okay.
kind of like a everybody blanket approval. Everybody gets a free bus there and free lunch. So
Yeah.
that's kind of cool.
Yellow buses.
Yellow buses, yeah.
Yeah.
So I drove. So I just kind of, I would take the bus just to save gas.
So you were working at a young age
Yeah.
to you wanted to buy a car, you wanted to buy
So
your stuff.
yeah, so like since I was 15 years old, I was even before that I was working like construction with a couple cousins, this and that. But since I was 15 years old, 15 and a half, I started working. As soon as I could work legally, I started working. And then ever since I started making money, I started buying my own stuff. And I don't know, we never really talked about it. It was just kind of like
That's what you do.
my yeah, my parents just stopped buying me certain things.
Yeah.
Obviously my mom always, provide a roof over my head. But I started buying the stuff I kind of wanted.
Yeah.
Going to the movies, going with my girlfriend, and this and that. I paid for everything.
Yeah.
So obviously, I wanted to work the more I could. 35 hours a week. I was making every 2 weeks I was making like $300. That was good money. $600 a
Oh
month.
yeah, back in the day, yeah,
Back,
I was
yeah,
gonna
six
that,
75. That was the minimum wage. I started with like 625, and then I would change jobs just for like an extra quarter.
yeah,
Because that was a
yeah.
quarter.
A
So
quarter back in the day was a big
that's a big,
big
that's
promotion,
yeah, big promotion,
big
man.
pay difference.
So yeah, so anyway, I'm working. I graduate high school. I go work construction here in Temecula, and I start making really good money.